Hang on, have they completely lost their minds? Let's begin. Now, of course, Labour have been in about 6 weeks, and they must have thought that now would be the perfect time to bring the country down to its knees. So what am I going on about then? What are they actually going to do? Well, can you remember not so long ago we had all the junior doctors saying we're going to go on strike, and Labour come out and said, well, actually, we'll give you a deal to make sure you don't. Well, from what I remember rightly, that union behind the junior doctors are basically, already talking about doing another strike next year. So I'm guessing Keir Starmer's strike prevention is actually going down about as well as a fart in a lift. And you'd think it'd be done there, wouldn't you? But unfortunately not. It seems that he's now even thought of doing something much worse than that. But just what is it then? Well, according to this article, it says that Labour has urged union rail leaders to get round the table as drivers threaten strikes despite a recent pay rise from the government. And of course, you'd think, wouldn't you, that sounds quite proactive from Labour, trying to get everyone together to put off any talks of strikes or anything like that at all. However, the problem with doing that is it's going to make it easier, if anything, for them to get more money out of us in future. And I say that because presumably all they'll need to do is tell their unions, and they'll tell Labour that we're going to go on strike again, when of course, they might not actually be really planning to do so, and Labour will be panicking like everything and go, no, don't do that, how much money do you want? And then more than likely cave in to their demands, all before any such preparations would have been put in place for a strike, I'm guessing. But anyway, it continues and says Sir Keir Starmer's attempts to resolve years of industrial action were hamstrung when ASLEF, the Associated Society of Locomotive Engineers and Firemen, announced that its members employed by LNER would strike every weekend from the end of August till mid-November. So if you're like me and you think strikes are nothing but a pain in the bum which affect us public, which you really shouldn't have to put up with, then you're going to just hate this, aren't you? It even says here that the new call for action from a union that, wait for this, donates large sums to the Labour Party. Well, that's strange, isn't it? A union that strikes, or wants to strike rather, is or has been donating money to Labour. Well, I don't know about you, but isn't that a tiny bit convenient that Labour are obviously now in power and can just basically, I guess, cave into their demands, eh? But anyway, it continues and says that they drew criticism from many in the Conservative Party who claim that the government is being played by the ASLEF, and personally I think they're completely right. Who do these guys think they are? And get this, writing in the Sunday Mirror, so who knows how accurate that is, Transport Secretary Louise Haigh said, "I've made my frustrations clear to both parties and my message is simple. Follow the government's lead, urgently get round the table, negotiate in good faith and stop this action before it starts." Or jump the gun as it's otherwise known, I'm guessing. And Nigel Roebuck, the ASLEF's lead negotiator, said the union is willing to listen as well as talk with the LNER. I guess they'll be doing plenty while talking, and picketing, more than likely. Oh, what am I saying? It's not a Conservative government. No doubt, of course, they won't need to picket. They'll just get whatever they want, I'm guessing. Especially now that Labour's in charge, Although, admittedly, I suppose there's a chance I always could be wrong. And listen to this. The union announcement for new industrial action came days after Miss Kay declared that the Labour Party had put an end to rail strikes for 2 long years. Well, didn't that do well, The words "pee up" and a brewery come to mind. I don't know about you, but that's what it sounds like. And this, of course, was apparently in reference to a pay deal that the ASLEF recommend its members accept, although I'm guessing they probably don't at the moment. But just what have Conservatives said about this? And Richard Fuller, the Conservative Party chairman, said this new Labour government is recklessly handing over cash to their union paymasters with no strings attached. It certainly does seem that way, doesn't it, Richard? But by doing so, he says that they are sending a dangerous signal to unions across the country that you can strike and be rewarded with a bumper pay packet with no improvements for its consumers. Well, isn't that just the case more often than not when companies strike? And apparently the RMT, which represents non-driver rail workers, is set to go into the Department for Transport on Tuesday this week to meet with rail companies for negotiations on their next pay round. Well, isn't that nice of them? But unfortunately, it seems that Labour isn't done there. They are actually making it easier, apparently, for companies to strike. Well, of course, why not, I mean, not of course, they just want to give away our money and push up our taxes. But why do I say that? What are they now actually going to do, apart from these meetings? But according to this article, it says that Sir Keir Starmer plans to repeal the Tory Act that ensures that half of members must take part in the ballot, say insiders. So that's just absolutely mental. How many members will it actually now take if this does indeed go ahead before a strike can be announced? It even says here, look, that trade unions will be free to strike even if most of their members do not vote for one under a new law that the government will propose within weeks. Well, I don't know about you, but does anyone else think it's time for another general election? Because let's face it, this Labour Party, or New Labour Party, or whatever you want to call them, doesn't really seem fit to government at all, do they, eh? But just what is that law they're talking about? Well, it says here, the Telegraph understands that the move will repeal the Trade Union Act 2016, which sets legal thresholds for how much support strike ballots need. And it will be tabled by mid-October despite a wave of new industrial action. Well, of course, because let's face it, Labour didn't really seem to like listening to people, eh? But that's not the worst part. The Act as it currently is insists that for important public services such as the NHS and transport, at least 40% of the union's total members must have voted for action. And removing both of these thresholds, as Labour basically intends to do under its Employment Rights Bill, championed by, of course, Miss Basic Instinct Legs herself, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, would mean trade unions could launch industrial action with the support of fewer members. So hypothetically, if anything, could that mean we could be in a situation where union members vote to strike but are doing so purely to get in one of these meetings and are actually bluffing? But of course the government won't know that.